Hi, I just finished a shower, so I'm a little red. I thought I'd walk in on my knees so I didn't offend any of our Voton players. You know, it was a rather short joke. So anyway, Leagues of Votan. So yeah, I think now might actually be a good idea to talk about various armies that have, now we have the points costs. I mean, for the most part, we have everything we need now, minus the missions, and the missions will change the way the game plays, no doubt. It's a major part of it. Like everything is in a vacuum at the moment, and for the most part, we just see mainly utility. Most of the time when you look at models and points, it's how killy is this thing comparative to their points cost. There's a lot of things like, oh, it might be killy, but its OC is really bad, so I might just outhold an objective, or how tanky, or yada yada. So there's still that kind of question, but now that we have points, rules, and data sheets, I'd say we have like 90%, and we can really start talking about it. So anyway, the Leagues of Votan are an army that I currently own. I actually have a pretty great amount of them. I think I have maybe like 50 Hearthstone Warriors, 10 Terminators, 6 Thunderkin, 2 Land Forts, like 4 Sagittar. I've got a pretty hefty Votan army. I was never a dwarf person. I never really cared much about dwarves when it came to fantasy and all that kind of stuff, or in any kind of lore. But I really like space-faring governments, hegemonies, conglomerates, talk about trade and resource management. I played a lot of Endless Space too, and so this kind of stuff really hits. So the Leagues of Votan, and this will be hopefully a short episode. So the Leagues of Votan have their points out. They have not been received well. We'll put it that way. They have been a little bit, maybe got through the short straw when it came to some stuff. Now, as we have to go through a couple of major changes to Votan first, and some we already know, some we don't. So first things first, when it comes to the Votan, their judgment tokens have of course been reworked. If something dies, they gain a token, and up to 2 instead of 3. If they have the enemy that, something dies, they get a token, it's +1 of the hit roll. 2 tokens is 1 of the hit roll, 1 of the wound roll. So that's just flat out what it is now. Very, very simple. The thing that we had issues with was finding out other ways to get tokens on people, and how we will be able to generally work with that as a strategy, right? So now that we've seen all the different data sheets and stuff, we can kind of talk more about it. The other thing mostly to note was that the Votan also lost things like Void Armor, so their Armor of Contempt is gone, and also they don't have they don't hit on 3s anymore. They hit on 4s for the most part. Like Uthar hits on 2s, of course. A Call, for the most part, hits on 2s, minus, the Mask Gauntlet. The Ironmaster Champion hits on 2s. But a lot of things now generally hit on 4s. For example, you have hitting on 4s for the core of units in the Grimnear. The Hearthstone Warriors hit on 4s. However, the Terminators, they still hit on 3s. They're still a little bit better than the rest. The Zerkers hit on 4s sometimes, but they hit on 3s with their big axe. The Pioneers hit on 4s across the board. The Sagittar hits on 4s, and the Broker Thunderkin and the Landfall hits on 4s. So for the most part, the army hits on 4s now, with some exceptions. They're like a little bit of a hybrid. They hit on 4s for most of their units, like 75%. There's a couple outliers that hit on 3s, the highly specialized units, and then the characters hit on 2s for the most part, with some exceptions. So it's an important thing to look at and to note for the army. So going forward, because now the Votan have moved into more of a very tanky and very quality like damage output in exchange for speed, and now a little bit of reliability in their damage, in their shooting, and I guess melee to go along with that. So it's something to note. As for Votan itself, the detachment we currently have is called Ruthless Efficiency, which basically is pick an enemy unit, they gain 2 judgment tokens for the whole battle, which is a it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Oaths of Moment, but it's battle, the entire battle. And then if you kill them in a certain time frame, you gain CP. So if you kill them in the first, second command phase, you get 3 CP. Third or fourth is 2 CP, and then the last one is 1 CP. So basically, there's a good chance, unless you're getting murdered, you'll probably be able to do it, and you get 2 CP here. But of course, whatever you put 2 judgment tokens on, the opponent will be able to react to it. It depends on what you put it on, I would probably put it on something that has to be up close and personal, like, I don't know, something that's big and scary, like a big squad of 10 possessed or something, right? That has to be up in your face. And then you might have the opportunity to kill it quick. As for the stratagems, there's a couple interesting ones here. The Warrior Pride is, and if you notice, a lot of the stratagems also revolve around judgment tokens as well. So it says in the fight phase, it has a unit from your army and one enemy with 1 or more tokens. You basically just get +1 AP against them, which is a very, very good buff. They just happen to need a token. Ancestral Sentence is sustain hits 1 when shooting at something, or sustain hits 2 if they have a token. Ordered Retreat is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in the unit that fell back. Reactive Reprisal is shoot back at your opponent, but you can only do so if they have judgment tokens. Newfound Nemesis is also interesting. It is shooting or fight phase when an infantry or mounted unit was reduced to below half strength. The unit then gains a judgment token or 2 if it contained your warlord. This one is actually, I think, something you'll be spamming, I think, quite a bit, because if you are reduced to below half strength, this is a great way to just give tokens out. It's one of the few ways you can give tokens out. And if you happen to have your warlord in there, then it's even more tokens, which is pretty great. The downside is, well, funny enough, I do wonder. It says after it's resolved its attacks, and it says infantry or mounted that has been reduced to below half strength. I mean, if you die, does that mean does that also count as below half strength? I mean, you're dead. So you technically were reduced, but I'm assuming not. My mind says no. And it's just like you fired at a group of 10, they now have 4, now you blast them. Which isn't too bad. I mean, if you have like a 10-man squad, play with a call in it, then they get reduced to 5, like 4 models left plus the call, and that happens to be your warlord. That's 2 tokens, which is actually pretty good. And you can combine that with Reactive Reprisal, but I probably wouldn't because you have not many guys left. And then last but not least, you have Void Armor, which is the 1 CP Armor of Contempt. So for the most part, the stratagems are okay. They're a bit I would say that this one might honestly be the best. Making it sustain hits 2 on a single judgment token unit with something like a land fortress is really, really good. Because remember, sustain hits is effectively +1 to hit with more random chance. Sustain hits 2 is effectively +2 to hit with way more random chance. So it could be pretty good with like a land fortress or like a unit with a lot of units in it, like maybe a 6-man squad of bikes. But, it's still a little iffy depending on how you roll. As for enhancements go, these ones I was pretty iffy on personally. The only one that I would say is a must-have is Long List. But Appraising Glare allows you to select one objective. Oh, wait, no. Appraising Glare is also a must-have. Selected in your command phase, an objective marker your opponent controls until the end of the phase. While an enemy unit is within range of the objective marker, it counts as having a... Wait. In your command phase, you can select one objective marker your opponent controls until the end of the phase. While an enemy unit is within range of that objective marker, it counts as having 1 more judgment token than it actually has. God damn it, GW. God damn it. This is not... So, you might notice something wrong with this. In your command phase, select one objective marker your opponent controls until the end of the phase. So, you now have 2 tokens. All right, now it's my movement turn. Now you're back to normal. This is probably until the end of the turn. This is probably supposed to be till the end of your turn or until the end of the next command phase. because this is just really stupid. Because I don't believe tokens do anything to your objective controller or anything. So it's just kind of a whole bunch of bullshit. So yeah, I think this is definitely written incorrectly. But I'm assuming it's basically they're on the command phase, they're on the objective. You point at them or whatever, you pick them, and then they get more tokens, so to speak, for a temporary point of time. A long list, though, is quite good. If you destroy an enemy unit with this bearer, the bearer's unit destroys an enemy unit. If they have one or more tokens, you can then select another enemy unit that is visible to gain a token. So this allows you to ping pong tokens around, which is a pretty good way to make sure people keep their tokens on and you not having too many issues. I think long list is a must-have, personally. Grim Demeanor is actually not too bad. It's reroll Battle Shock and also ignore all modifiers or saving throws any rolls or tests excluding saving throws. It's basically just like I can't be affected by anything whatsoever with this unit, which actually isn't too bad. I might recommend this maybe for something like Einhir Champion and Einhir Hearthguard, just to keep them like really tough and hard to deal with, but you know, it's an idea. And Wayfarer's Grace is a 2-up comeback to life with full wounds, which is very, very good. And I would probably recommend that with a call or something else like that. But I think long list is a must-have, and Appraising Glare is a must-have once it gets fixed, of course. So if you might notice, the biggest issue with Voton right now is the lack of putting tokens on things. Because at the moment, it's only if something dies, you know? Now, there is, I guess, something to be stated that if a unit dies, the character is then removed from the unit, and then if the character dies, that also counts as a token being gained. So often, very, very often, if you wipe a whole unit with the character, you're getting 2 tokens, not 1, which is something to be noted. However, even with that, before you would give tokens by doing that, you would give tokens by if they complete an action, which if we notice, there are no actions anymore, I think, unless they're in the mission cards. And they also would get a token if they were on an objective marker. You could pick someone to give a token. And those are the main ways. Now it's just death and a few other options like the newfound nemesis or things like long list, and the Appraising Glare is just the adjustment to it. The last way you can give somebody tokens is with this ability right here, Grim Efficiency. Once per battle round in your command phase, you can select one model from your army with this ability, so you can't stack it up. You can't have 3 calls and just put it everywhere. It has to be here. God, my hair looks like a fucking mop. Why do I look like a goddamn 80s protagonist? I hate this. I need to put more gel in this crap. I just did the shower. Sorry, this is some goofy looking ass man right here. Anyway, the call is going ahead and giving out the judgment token, but only 1 call can do this. So you select 1 model from your army with this ability, then select an enemy unit that is visible to this model, and they gain a judgment token. As you said, it's once per battle round, so you only get to do it for once, as far as if I'm not mistaken. So that's and after that, that's it. There are no other ways to give tokens. At least I don't remember seeing anything. Nothing there. Nothing there. And nothing there. I believe this is the only other way to give tokens. Yeah. So, yeah, that's, it's a bit of something right there. It's a bit something right there. I won't lie. I think that we're a little bit low on the token power, because for a while I was like, okay, well, we're going to 4-ups to shoot, but then we're going to get tokens to make up for the 4-ups. But then we don't get enough tokens. So it's a bit of like an army issue there, I think, overall. If we're going to actual data sheets, we'll start off with Uthar here, though. Uthar is a T5, 5 wounds. You can do the once per turn, change a hit, wound, or damage roll to a 6. In my opinion, you'll probably be doing this for the wound roll most and foremost, because, well, I'm not going to lie, there is no damage roll to make. Why is there a damage roll when neither of your things have a damage characteristic? What? If it was a saving throw, okay, I get that, but it's a damage roll. You don't have damage rolls. And you might say, oh, Bricky, it's for the unit. No, it's for the model. There's no damage rolls. I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, so he has his Vulcanite Disintegrator. Still actually a pretty good weapon, I'd say. 3 attacks, 18 inches, doing mortals on 6s. I think it's still pretty all right as a weapon. The Blade of the Ancestors is pretty solid as well. 5 attacks, strength 6, AP 3. It's pretty good. 2 damage, and then dev wounds. You will most likely be doing the wound roll of a 6 with Ancestral Fortune. What's nice too is that it allows you to roll it afterwards. You can change it, it says. So you are allowed to roll all of your wound rolls, see if you get any 6s, and then change one to a 6. The Destined is also pretty good. Each time an attack is allocated, you change the damage characteristic to a 1. So if you were hit by damage 45, it goes down to 1, which is quite nice to keeping him very alive. You'll need a low or a high volume, low damage attacks to bring him down effectively. He also gives a 5-up invul to the unit he's leading, and he has a 4-up invul. As far as Uthar goes, Uthar is 115. If I'm not mistaken, prior, he was like 160, but he was also, I would say, significantly better for the most part. Yeah, 160. He was a little bit tankier and stuff, but as we discussed before, being a leader changes that a little bit. He also had, better AP here. The mortal wounds thing was different. The judgment tokens. He had, massive full rerolls to hits and rerolls to wound and yada, yada, yada. So as far as I'm concerned, Uthar has definitely taken a pretty hefty nerf, but his points have gone down. I actually think they could have gone down more. I think Uthar should have been like 105 or maybe even just 100. The fact that he doesn't give any buffs to his unit is a bit shocking. The Ancestral Fortune is just for himself. The Destined is just for himself. And Grim Efficiency is something that regular calls get. He gives the 5-up invul, but so do normal calls. Now, you can run him with Einhir Hearthguard or Hearthkin Warriors, as you can see there. But, here's the regular call. And the regular call can either give this unit Deep Strike, still give them a 5-up invul, which I'm probably going to take, still has Grim Efficiency, and gives the unit lethal hits. So, he actually does way more than Uthar does for the unit. And the call, I think, is 90? Yeah, 90. I would also say the call probably could have been brought down to like 80. I think 90 is a bit too high. I think a call right now is like 120. No, it's still 90. Wait, really? Oh. Mass Gauntlets 10 and then Ramparts 10. So you probably took the Rampart. So I guess it's a little cheaper, but it's not cheap enough. That should have gone lower. It should have been like 80 or something. But yeah, the call gives lethal hits. He's got some decent, he can also have the Vulcanite Disintegrator. He's got roughly a similar stat line. He just doesn't have a 5 wounds or, wait, that's really, and the Destined. He just is missing a wound. He's missing a wound, but he still has the invul. And, the weapons are still fine. 3 attacks at 823 or 4 attacks at 522. They're not as good as Uthar, sure, but I would just not take Uthar. I don't think it's really worth it. I mean, maybe if you want the beat stick, maybe you just want someone to hit you. But I think the call is just flat out better. Plus the call can be ran with Einhir Hearthguard as well as Hearthkin Warriors and being able to pop around with the judgment tokens. I just think the call is flat out better. And I think he's still overpriced. The Einhir champion I know got a pretty major points drop. He was before 120, 130 with the hammer. Now he is just 75. So he went down like around 50. And that I'm actually pretty okay with because as far as I'm concerned, he's kind of meh. He's kind of mid. The Autarch pattern Kami Bolter is not a bad weapon. I kind of like that as extra little bits of shots there. And in combat, he doesn't hit poorly. Darkstar Axe at 622 is a fine profile in this new meta. Mass Hammer at 12-2 D6 plus 1. That will hit. Hitting on 3s is a bit rough. I kind of wish he had one more attack on that. He also has the thing where he slams into an enemy and does mortals, and he can reroll charge rolls, which is all cool, but he's lost a lot of power. He used to be -1 damage. He used to be -1 to wound as well. And he used to have void armor. So he was substantially tankier. Now, he is T6 and he's put with only the Einhir Hearthguard. So it does make a little bit of sense with that. But even so, I would probably take him with the Deep Strike ability so I could come out of Deep Strike and reroll charge rolls for the unit. But he certainly is not that great overall. I think that he lost so much tankiness overall. And he's also, his damage is like fine. It's pretty okay, but it's nothing to really write home about. And if you use the Deep Strike ability with the Einhir, you're sacrificing the Invul save. And that's just, I don't know, man. I really don't love it. But he's also 50 points less, so, you know, whatever. It's a bit of a difficult thing to parse. The Grimnear, I actually do like. I think the Grimnear is, for the most part, pretty good. He's 75 points also, and I like him a lot more than the Einhir champion. He's still T5. He's got a 4-up invul, which is nice. The 2 Corvs. He has the 2 Autopattern Bolters, so it's 4 shots at 24-inch range. And he has his Witchfire attack here, which is 3 attacks at 6/2 D3 or 6 attacks at 6/2 D3. And it's hazardous, which means that if he fails the hazardous, he can just kill off a Corv, which is kind of cool, I think. I think he can kill off a Corv. It might be model. It might be model. I might be getting that wrong. Still, I would warrant it might not being like a bad idea because six shots at 6/2 D3 is really solid, you know? You can't get devastating wounds like the Terminator Psyker, but you're getting max shots, so that's pretty good. The melee is not that great though. But he does do a couple things. He has a once per battle turn off battle shock for the unit, and he increases the unit by toughness by 1, which I actually think is really solid. He only goes with Hearthkin Warriors, but that does make the Hearthkin Warriors T6. And T6, giving these guys also having a 6-up feel no pain with the meta pack, like that's actually pretty all right, you know? T6 is a solid toughness for these guys. And granted, they don't have an invul save, but you can give the Sergeant an invul save, which might be worth it for the most part. I don't know. Like, I actually think that the Grimnear is looking pretty all right for the most part. The damage he does is pretty good. The toughness buff is pretty good. And I like that you can tech into a no battle shock thing, which is really handy just if you really badly need an objective. Because it's not re-roll the battle shock. It's just you failed the test. Awesome. No more. I think that's actually really good. And also it says you can use this ability so you don't have to use it if it's at like a inopportune time, like you got hit by Screamer Killer or something. Last but not least is the Brokir Ironmaster. Graviton rifles, much like we saw in the Grav weapons, are anti-vehicle now. 3 shots at 5/1/2 with anti-vehicle 2-up is actually pretty good. The AP is a bit meh, but the rest is not bad. And then, you know, strength 9, 1 AP and 3 damage on a vehicle, AP 2 or anti-vehicle 2-up, it's actually pretty okay. He actually has a somewhat solid amount of attacks here for the most part. It'll mainly just be there to kill chaff, but it's got some stuff. Now, if he's with a unit, which he can be with 2, Brokir Thunderkin and Hearthkin Warriors, he allows them to add 1 to the hit roll when they are making a ranged attack. I'm a little unsure. I don't love that. And okay, let me rephrase that. This is good. I like that. This is good. This is certainly good. But unfortunately, it's +1 to the hit roll, which does not counteract well or work well with the +1 to the hit roll for the judgment tokens. I would have much rather preferred he simply increased the ballistic skill of the unit by 1. Because the Brokir Iron, whatever his name is 75 points as well, much like the Grimnear. And I think it would have been handy to, instead of just giving them +1 to hit, instead adding a +1 ballistic skill instead. Now, granted, of course, if the opponent has -1 to hit and they have a judgment token, you can get +2 to hit by counteracting theirs and giving you extra, but I think it could have been a little bit better. Also, he gives vehicles +1 or 3 wounds to heal, just flat 3 wounds to heal, but he doesn't increase the vehicle's like power. I would have really liked it if he made the vehicle +1. Wait, how much is a land fortress? 245. It's actually cheaper than I remember. How much was a land fortress here? 310. That is a pretty big difference. Maybe I wouldn't have done that because I might have people spam Ironmasters to give land fortresses +1 to hit. Maybe I rescind that. But even so, it's unfortunate to me that all he does is heal. Maybe if he gave it like reroll ones or something. But all he does is heal, and that's a little bit, unfortunately, mediocre to me. Giving it to warriors is fine, but you can't attach him along with a regular call. So if anything, I think I might prefer him with a 6-man squad of Brokier Thunderkin, because Thunderkin can't get any other character buffs. And so it also is quite a lot of ablative wounds. I won't lie, I almost think I would oh wait, no, you can't kill off the character before you kill off the rest. Damn, I would have almost killed off him before I killed off the Brokier Thunderkin, just because he doesn't really bring enough to the table for me. But he is cheap though. The characters, with the exception of the Call and Uthar, are, I think, mostly okay in terms of their points. Einhier's a little bit meh, but you know, he could 75 points for a beat stick. Brokier's but he's 75. I actually like the Grimnear, but Uthar and the Call I think could have gone down as well. At least by like 5 or 10 with the Call, and maybe by 15 for Uthar. Anyway, moving on to the regular guys. Hearthkin Warriors, for the most part, are, I think, one of the better units. Combined with the expensive characters, it gets a little bit iffy sometimes. But the Hearthkin Warriors are 10 models for 135. And now that we know that war gear is free, everything that they carry is, well, you're going to take all of it, right? So it says 2 Hearthkin Warriors can replace their stuff. You're probably taking the Magna Rail Rifle, and you're probably taking either the Plasma Beamer or the Rotary Cannon. Or no, the Missile Launcher probably. I'd probably take the Magna Rail and the Missile Launcher. The Rotary Cannon is pretty good, though. Hylas Auto Rifle? Oh, that's actually not bad either. You're probably taking the Magna Rail. If I'm being honest, you're probably taking the Magna Rail, and you're taking one of the other ones. And of course, you're taking all of the war gear abilities. So ignores cover, +1 CP on a 5-up, 6-up feel no pain, and you're going to give your sergeant the 4-up invul, and maybe give him a melee weapon. I'm mostly okay with how they're pointed. I think you could have maybe dropped them 10. They might be a little too expensive, but T5 is a really good, metric. Getting sticky objectives is never a bad thing. 4-up save is not great, but getting a feel no pain is helpful, especially at a 4-up invul for the sergeant in case you need to take some really high AP shots. And their guns aren't bad, right? It's basically full range bolters across the board, or an 18-inch range 5.22 shot, which has good use. Having your base troops have a 5.22 shot is not bad, even if they're only hitting on 4s. And if you have a call with them, they do get lethal hits, which is really handy for just breaking through their worst ballistic skill now, because it doesn't rely on ballistic skill, it relies on 6s. You can't take them in squads of 20 anymore, which I'm a little sad about. I like my 20-man Hearthkin warrior squads. But I don't fully mind the warrior price point. I don't mind them maybe going down 10, maybe 15, but I don't mind them overall. I think that you can actually run a lot of them, some of them even bare bones, and mostly be okay because of their high toughness. As for Hearthguard, however, they got a massive drop in points. They were like 45 each. Now they're 33 each. A huge drop in points. And I'm not going to lie, I don't think it's enough. I think they should go down to 30. I think they did not get enough of a points drop. They should be going down to 30 or something along those lines. They're T6, which is a good metric. They have a 2-up save, also good, and 2 wounds, all fine. They're like your Terminator equivalent, and they don't have 3 wounds, but they also lost Void Armor, and they also lost -1 damage, which was a huge thing to keep them from not dying to just mass plasma. And of course, the teleport crest you need if you want them to be out and about on the battlefield jumping around. And the Weafield crest you need if you want them to be, well, that's just the sergeant, giving them an invul just in case. They do have a somewhat decent ability here, which is when the bodyguard is with them, they have this new kind of transhuman they're doing, which is basically if you're wounding them on 3s, it becomes 4s, and 2s, it becomes 3s. That's basically what it is. Unless you have a +1 to wound, then that changes it out. But I won't lie, having -1 to wound on a T6 model is actually quite good. On anything over them, that is, because they'll be wounded on 5s by most to all anti-infantry firepower, but they will be wounded on 4s by most to all other weapons that are not the most dedicated anti-tank. Even las cannons at strength 12 will be wounding them on 4s. No, 3s. That's the only thing they'll be wounding them on 3s. Anything below a las cannon will be wounding them on 4s, which is, not bad for the most part. I think that their damage output isn't quite enough. I must say, there is actually a good question for running the plasma gun now. One shot at 24 inches at 832 is not bad. It's actually a genuinely solid single shot weapon right there. It's also got longer range, which is handy. So if you wanted to walk these boys up, you could probably do so pretty well by running plasma gun. And you also have the grenade launcher, which does have blast, which is a buff now because it's blast. I'm probably still going to run them with Vulcanite disintegrators just because it's a lot of shots and it's kind of like anti-everything. You can do a pretty good job at taking down even tougher targets by just kind of getting a couple mortals in here and there. And its volume of fire is pretty good. Not to mention, the extra volume of fire with the grenade launcher. Their melee it's okay. It leaves a bit to be desired. I would totally take the hammer on the sergeant, of course. I think I would go with the gauntlet over the plasma blade. The plasma blade is a little bit better versus middle level elite and infantry, but you've got such good anti-infantry with that grenade launcher. I'd probably tool them up to be a bit better at harder targets, so I would probably run the concussion gauntlet myself. They're too expensive. They need to go down by more, I think. And of course, they only go in squads of 5 to 10 now, because blah. Okay, Berserks. Berserks have a terrible save, but they have a 5-up feel no pain, which is nice. They're 2 wounds each and have T5. I believe that was roughly what they had before. Yeah. They were 33 points. Holy hell, that was so much beforehand. What the hell? Get out of here, prompt. Beforehand. And often the mole grenade launcher was really nice to take. They are now 27 points. So they went down 5 points each. So with the free war gear, I don't hate them. I think maybe I would have dropped them to 25 instead of 27, but not more than that. I don't mind the Zerks. So the mole launcher is for every 5 models in the unit, and you can take 5 to 10. So you can get 2 mole launchers for the most part. And it also, it says can have its heavy plasma axe or concussion maul replaced. Well, it's concussion gauntlet, right? And then for every 5 models in the unit, you gain an additional wound, you gain an additional attack, and you still keep the heavy plasma axe. So you keep the axe, gain a wound, gain an attack, which is kind of nice, and also gain the mole grenade launcher, which I think is actually a pretty generally solid profile. Blast is good, 5-1-1 is good anti-infantry, and you're able to, on a 4-up, make the insane level of -2 to its move, -2 to advance and charge, which is a very genuinely solid option there to slow down the enemy infantry, especially on indirect. Not to mention, these guys fight on death, which is real good. My issue comes from the fact that I don't think they hit very hard against their intended targets. They're okay so you take the heavy plasma axe if you want to be good at some things but not great at everything. a decent sweep here and a solid strike profile. I would take the Twin Concussion Gauntlet and almost every single time. The extra attack is great, the profile is really good, and you get Twin Linked, and now it's free, so I would always take that on the Sergeant every time you get the option to. The Maul is really good also, but you do hit at weapon skill 4, not 3, but the profile is quite nice. So I think it really just depends on what you're fighting and what you want to tool them up for. I think that while the Plasma Axe, it looks really cool, is okay, the fact that you will be automatically taking Mole Grenade Launchers for a little bit of extra anti-infantry chip might mean Concussion Mauls and the Gauntlet is the better play. But you're hitting on 4s, which isn't great, and you're still a bit pricey at 270 for 10. I can see a statement for 5 of them to be running around with the Mole Launcher and Sagittars perchance to pop out and just start wailing on things, but I don't know. I do feel like they're a bit too expensive still. Pioneers, I think are the same cost as before, 35. I would have dropped them by 5, but I wouldn't make a huge difference. Pioneers I'm mostly okay with. They're T6 now, which is a very good toughness. They're 3 wounds, also very good. Saves isn't that good, but they fly. They've got long inch move. They got 9-inch scout move. They also have that thing where you can remove them and bring them back to strategic reserves. They have comms array. They ignore cover, and they have the searchlight, which is great. It basically counteracts the enemy's stealth. If they have stealth, you get +1 to hit roll. So it says, hey, if you have stealth, knock it off. No more. Besides that, their weapons are, fine. Bolt shotgun is 2 shots at 501. In 12, Magna Coil autocannon is 712, 3 shots. And then you are obviously taking a big gun, which gives you not only an extra wound, but it'll allow you to have either the rotary cannon or the ion beamer. Both, I'd say, are pretty good. I actually think I might be more partial to the beamer now compared to the rotary cannon. The rotary cannon was really, really good before. I think it wasn't like 9 shots. Yeah, 9 shots at 622. Now it's 6 shots at 612, but with sustained hits. I think I like the beamer. You have to get closer, which is a bit of a fear with these kinds of models. But D3 is quite a lot. 3 shots is still not bad. I think before it was 2 shots. And that's just good AP and good strength for the most part. I also think these guys should have gone down 5, but I think their bikes are still pretty good for the most part. Sagittar. So the Sagittar is interesting. It is still very, very fast. It's T10, which is nice. It's a little bit above a normal Rhino. 9 wounds, 3 up save. It also has a 6-inch scout move, which is lovely. It also can advance and have units disembark, which is awesome. It makes it like the really, really fast deployment thing, much like the Torox. And its guns, I think, are still relatively decent. Its twin bolt cannon has been adjusted because that's how they are now, but 612, still damage 2, twin linked. And now you can choose whatever you want on the top for, whatever you want. The high-las beam cannon is actually kind of a nutty anti-tank. 2 shots at 12, 3, and D6 damage. Granted, it doesn't hit very well with the ballistic skill 4, but it does have sustained hits D3. I personally am probably going to still run the missile launcher because it's more generalist, because it's a combination of 2. You get the L7, which is either a regular, anti-horde or anti-tank, and the Sagittar missile launcher is a surprisingly decent strength 12 AP3 flat 3 damage. Just pretty good to put that into some random stuff. Though the Matter autocannon is also not bad. 6 shots at 712 if you just want to go for overall firepower. The Sagittar is 120. I think you're paying those points for the ability to split Voton Hearthkin warriors up. And I'm going to be totally honest. I think a Sagittar is going to make it in every single one of my lists so I can split them up. Having extra splitting like this, I think, is just really good. It allows you to put something on a backfield objective and then move off the objective because they have sticky objectives. And not only that, but just getting them where they need to be is quite nice. It has a very low transport capacity, which is unfortunate, but even that, putting in Chthonian Berserks, for example, like I would take a Sagittar, split Hearthkin into 2 units, drop the Hearthkin off, drop off the other Hearthkin, and then move my Berserks into the transport and fly my ass forward. That's probably what I would do for the most part. And I think it's probably the best idea. I like that as an overall concept, as long as you can still do that with transports. I think they're still a bit pricey, but I'm glad you don't need to take them in squads of 2 anymore to get what you want. And for the most part, I'm still mostly okay with how the Sag is. Maybe 10 points less, but I'm mostly okay. Thunderkin. Brokir Thunderkin are 6 into 19 would be 6 times 5. No, 6 times 5. Jesus Christ, Bricky. 6 times 3 would be 18, and then 10. So it's like what? 31.5, I guess, or something. It's like 30 like 2-ish or whatever per model now. So I believe they were 35 before. Yeah, 35 before. So their points went down the tiniest fraction, almost untenable. Their toughness went up to go along with the rest of them. Their wounds are the same and their save is the same. So that's all good. They did lose, of course, void armor. As far as what they do now, they hit on 4s, which is really unfortunate. But I think their weapons are a bit better suited for the most part. Before, I thought the Graviton was easily the best because it was AP3, D6 shots, and it had the classic armor penetration of like a 3-up does a damage of 3. So even fighting tanks and wounding on 5s was worth it for that flat 3 damage. Now it's an anti-vehicle option at 5/2/2. Granted, it's a really good anti-vehicle option. I'd argue that, well, it has blast, which is just a bit bizarre. But it has a really good profile. So like, even if you're not firing at vehicles, this against a squad of Marines is still really gonna hurt. Like, that's a good amount of shots. You'll probably get D6 +1, and you'll be wounding them in 3s, good AP, good damage. Like, it's solid anti-elite. But it also can just rip into vehicles really well. The problem, of course, is that it's 18-inch range. The bolt cannon is 612, 3 shots at 36-inch range with sustained hits 1. And the conversion beamer has the 1-shot 713, but it has conversion and sustained hits D3, which means if you hit, aka a 4-up, and they're more than 12 inches, in reality, you get D3 +1 shots. So it's definitely a bit of a better choice to pick what you want. The bad AP is rough for this to take out vehicles. The Graviton is definitely the anti-vehicle. Bolt Cannon's a bit more generalist, and Conversion Beamer is specialized against just kind of bizarre, wacky units that have like lots of wounds but low like mid toughness and mid saves. And of course, you were able to Overwatch on a 5-up. So personally, I kind of like these guys. I mentioned in the Sisters one with the Retributors with heavy bolters. I kind of like these guys as a squad of 6, with like maybe with a Forge Master, maybe not, sitting atop a really high ruin with bolt cannons. Personally, I like them in a high ruin bolt cannons because if you're way up top, you get the plunging fire rule, which means when you're firing down on people, you get +1 AP. So your bolt cannons become 6/2/2 when you're high up there. 6 of them is 18 shots, sustain hits. So 18 means 3 more are gonna go through. So you're gonna hit 9 + 3. So you're gonna get about 12 shots at 6/2/2, or 12 hits at 6/2/2. That's pretty good for a full squad, I'd say. That's not even counting the possibility of a +1 to hit either from a judgment token or a +1 to wound from a judgment token. It's also I like the Overwatch on a 5-up thing, because if they're way up there and a unit moves within 12 of you, I'd say this is still very much worth spending the Overwatch stratagem on. Just have them like turn down and like bop, 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 you know, and really disincentivize your opponent from getting too close to these guys. Also, if they're up and about, I'd say you could probably use that stratagem to have them fire back if you lose a guy, which I would say is pretty good. Problem is that they have to have a token for that. So there's also that. Also, you can give these guys sustain hits 2, which, well, nah, you already have 1. Nah, no need. I don't know. Like with a Forge Master up there, it's kind of pricey. You know, you're paying 265 points for 18 shots, maybe on hitting on 3s of the Forge Masters. I'm not sure. I think it might have play, but it's just a little bit iffy. I'm not 100%. Last but not least, we have the Chunky Land Fort. We all know and love the Chunky Land Fort. This is where the few bits of genuine anti-tank come from. We've talked about the Land Fort a bit in the prior video for the most part. I think fire support is the better option more than anything when it comes to the Land Fortress, which allows you to roll up with 12, you know, Voton infantry, which is basically for me just 10 Hearthkin warriors and a character. You pop out and you let them re-roll all of your wounds against the targets, which is nice. You ignore their cover, which is very nice. And then you hit them with, what is it? The Matter autocannon and 2 twin bolt cannons. So 2 twin bolt cannons, you get that 612, 2 of them sustained, twin linked, all great stuff. Matter autocannon, it's nice to have. And then you either get the big blast gun, the cyclic ion cannon, which is also really good, or the heavy conversion beamer, which is also very good with high amounts of damage. I think they're all good. Depends on what you want to use them for. I would say the Magna Rail Cannon just on a 4, man, on a 4, just it's such an important gun, and to hit on a 4, I don't think I'd take it. I think I would go with the cyclic ion cannon. Honestly, maybe the conversion beamer, just because that damage 4 is chunky. But I'd probably go with the cyclic ion cannon just to really put that extra hurt down. Honestly, the Hecaton Land Fortress with its points is still pretty expensive, and everything on 4s, it doesn't make me feel that good. Also, there's something to think about when it comes to Voton, which is you're incentivized for taking smaller squads. And that's entirely due to the fact that you just don't have the judgment tokens to give. You need to give tokens. And having big squads means you give less tokens because you die less because you've got giant squads. The Land Fortress is one of those things where you wonder, like, would I take a Land Fortress or would I take 2 Sagittar? 2 Sagittar seem really good and are the same cost, and also are very fast and everything like that, and have good shooting, but you don't get the tankiness and you don't get the fire support. So it really depends. The stratagem that gives you double sustained hits is something I would run pretty much every single time it shoots. Like every single time the Land Fortress shoots, I would pop this stratagem. Because 1, it's sustained his 1 is probably enough with it to begin with. And 2, with a judgment token is just, it's so good. But yeah, that's Voton. The problem, I think, is that it's got 2 problems. It's got 2 problems. Problem 1 is that the judgment tokens don't come around enough. You don't give enough of them to make them worth. Because dropping how you give tokens, dropping the effect of tokens was one solution. The other solution was to give fewer tokens. So you had 2 ways to balance it, and you chose both. And I think that's the problem. It's like, okay, make the tokens worse or give fewer. And we chose both. So that makes a big issue for the most part. The second issue is that we're not pointed enough. You gave us a whole bunch of hitting on 4s, which is fine. If you want to make us a 4-up army, I have no issue with that. Where we can be slow, mega tanky Tau. Totally fine with that. However, the points needed to reflect that. And while we did go less and we did become lower costed, I don't think we became lower costed enough. And I think for the most part, army-wide, we probably couldn't have another 10 to 20%. 20% might be too much, like 10 to 15% drop in points to really determine whether or not it's worth it. So yeah, I don't have great faith in the Voton for the most part. I'm probably going to play them relatively soon once I grab the Leviathan box and kind of find out a little bit. Me and Demeki were planning on having a game where it was Voton versus Death Guard, two slow, tanky armies, and two assumed to be very bad armies, and kind of see how it plays out. So that's the plan. That's what we're looking to do. Other than that, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for stopping by and looking at our short kings. And hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm plain old wrong and things work out well. All right. Bye-bye.